Because you could start as an intern at a company and you learned that you were really good at marketing and you were going to university for marketing and for business. And so your internship led into a marketing internship. The marketing internship, you came in as a social media content creator. And then you built yourself up over, and I'm saying you stayed with this company for 10 years. Let's say you stayed at this company for 10 years. So you have 10 years working experience and you built yourself up from intern to an actual director. You went all the way up in a course of 10 years because you built your reputation, you worked for it, you got it. Now say, excuse me. Now say you've done that and you've hit your peak and you can't go any higher, and another company wants somebody for the C-suite for marketing. You have your graduate degree, you've worked as a marketing director, you hit every single one of those things for the JD, on top of the fact that you have 10 plus years working experience in marketing, okay? Your CD gets kicked back out because you do not have exactly 10 years experience as a marketing director. You have only 5 years of experience as a marketing director because the other 5 years were you building up to that. And that is why I'm saying impossible requirements. On top of impossible requirements, we've also seen, which brings us to our next point, salaries. Now, am I a firm believer that salaries should be on job postings? Absolutely, because I believe everybody needs to know what they're getting into before they click apply. And this is where a lot of issues will come up with salaries. They either do not put the salary on it, or it says salary will be discussed later, which can either be one way or the other. It's either really high and it's always based on your experience, or it's low and they don't want to admit that in the posting because they want more and more people to apply. Excuse me. And when it's hidden, it really is because they don't want to disclose it at all until the end where they can actually negotiate with you, which another thing that I'm not going to get into, and I'm not going to say my opinion on it because I'm just not going to. Okay, now with it being hidden, yes, and sometimes it's too low for the market value and for what the actual requirements are asking. So they're saying, oh, we want, and this is a real life experience and real life posting that I actually saw a few days ago. They wanted an HR administrator and a executive assistant for a company in Dubai. That being said, HR admin normally, just a straight HR, because it was the only HR person, normally those average between 12 and 17K per month, depending on the size of the company. And then executive assistants are also, especially this one, it wanted not for one partner, it wanted it for 3 partners. So that's 3 separate everything. So 3 separate calendars, 3 separate emails, 3 separate, you're handling all that. Plus they had international companies. So that was handling branches in 3 different countries on many different time zones, which happens a lot here in Dubai. I'm not saying that that's not normal. It is very normal here. That being said, the average for an executive assistant, depending on the years that they've been there and their years of experience, anything over 3 to 5 years, you're going to be looking at a salary of between 20 and 25,000 just for the EA portion. What I found interesting about this job is they did post the salary and they said, depending on your experience, it would either be between 20 and 30. Now, is that an acceptable range? It's kind of lowballing it. And I'll say that because if you combine the 2 jobs that you have to do, it should be a minimum of minimum of 30, because you are doing two separate jobs. One person is doing two separate jobs. So there you go. That's why I'm saying sometimes they even lowball it. Now, our next topic, or not our next topic, but our next point for this is, I hate to put it this way, but it is what it is. And the next portion is terrible recruitment processes. And we're gonna talk about ghosting, because that happens so often now. And I'm not just talking about recruiters ghosting candidates. No, I'm talking about across the board. Recruiters will ghost candidates. Candidates will ghost recruiters. Clients will ghost their recruiters. And so it's like a trickle-down effect. If a client ghosts their recruiter, the recruiter can't give the candidate anything, so they ghost the candidate. And then the candidate goes, okay, well, clearly I'm not up for this position. So then they start to look elsewhere. And then the recruiter, when the client finally comes back, and then the recruiter finally comes back, and then the candidate's like, what's the point of even answering you when I, asked you, you completely ignored me. It is what it is. And that is the age that we live in. And I think it's a terrible practice. Me personally, on top of the fact it's very unprofessional from everybody. I'm not just saying from the recruiter to the candidate or vice versa. I'm talking across the board. Like, it's just unprofessional to ignore it, because that's what ghosting is you are ignoring it and hoping that it just goes away. Because if you don't, it's the whole putting the blinders up with horses. Like, if I can't see it, then it's not there, right? Wrong. So, ghosting. Either follow-up emails that fall on deaf ears, especially from recruiters to clients, or vice versa. WhatsApp messages go unread. Like, if a candidate sends a message to a recruiter, like a follow-up a few days later, and it's just left on unread. Or my personal favorite, when they actually read it and they just simply choose not to respond to it. That's my personal favorite, if you get my drift. Then that goes into, ghosting kind of feeds into the long hiring times. So this kind of goes with, I'm using the GCC because it does it both ways. I've noticed that hiring is very, very fast, or it is very, very slow. But then there's also a middle ground where it'll start really fast and end very slow. And this is kind of how it happens. A recruiter posts a job, right? It happens. They post a job, they get X amount of applicants, they go through the applicants within like 24, 48 hours. They get the CVs that they want, then the recruiters will be really quick, and they do the initial video interview with the candidate. They shortlist for the client and they hand it off to the client. And they're like, okay, it's, ball is in your court, right? And then that happens in a span of 3 days. Like, we say 72 hours, and that is done. Finished. Halas. Candidate gets the stuff. And that's where the ball kind of pauses. And it's not even that they drop it, it just gets paused because something happened, the budget was reworked, something like a hiring freeze happened. And instead of saying to the recruiter, hey, I know you did all this, but now we've got a problem and we can't schedule the interviews. Even the hiring manager's out of the country, they're on holiday, we can't fit it in. Fill in any excuse or any issue. And I'm not saying like excuses in like, we don't want to do it. I'm saying an actual like legitimate business excuse. But instead of relaying that information to the recruiter, sometimes the client, again, does the ghosting thing where they're like, We'll get to it eventually, but right now we don't have time to even answer you. So that is when the big delays happen. So the recruiter did everything super fast, and now the company is doing everything super slow, and you're still a month later and you still haven't hired anybody. Excuse me. Which leads me into the next problem with this point. Say you do all of that and you get past all of this, or you've done it all correctly where you haven't ghosted and you haven't taken, 5 to 7 business weeks to get back to a candidate. And you sit down and you actually go through all the motions and you get there, and the candidate asks you, well, what's the career growth for this position? And then that's when you hit a wall, because there may not be a career growth right now. Because you hired this person, you had a specific JD in mind, and as of right now, like where they sit in the organization chart, there is no growth. It's either a lateral and you go to a different department, or you are stuck there until the cows come home, as they say in the US where I'm from, which means never. So, this is where it comes down to there's no career growth, either there's no promotions, or you get the flip side of that coin, and it's actually people will get terminated because there are no promotions. So they will go through a organization shuffle, and your job will become irrelevant, or they don't see the fiscal need for that job, and so then people are terminated, which happens more often than not when there isn't career growth. A company will restructure, and if any of you know, or if any of you been in the meetings of restructuring, a lot of it is reshuffling, recategorizing, and then realizing that, oh, well, we can have a Q1 profit if we just get rid of these, because those particular jobs aren't going anywhere. Which is sad, but it's a reality. And am I saying that it's right, or am I saying that it's wrong? No, for both. I'm saying it's a reality of business. There's a difference. Now, part 3. Why everybody else applies for your jobs. Because we just discussed as to why the correct candidates aren't. So now we're going to discuss why the candidates that you're actually getting. Now, why are people applying? And the answer is, let's go with LinkedIn first. The easy apply button. You all have seen it. You all know it. It is a quick click. It auto fills in all of your information from your own LinkedIn, your CV that's already on file, your telephone number, and if the company asks for random questions as a requirement, you click, 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 and done. It's submitted, right? Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like, it takes less than 30 seconds to apply for a LinkedIn position if it says easy apply. We all know this.